Good evening, folks. Meteorologist Nick Kelly at your service once again. Finally get the chance to post another video update for my blog. Well, you couldn't say Punxsutawney Phil was kind of right. We did see some severe weather yesterday, at least in the boot heel of Missouri, along I-55 near or just south of Cape Girardeau. We had some actual cars blown off the highway around Portageville or Portagedale, but thankfully no injuries or fatalities with those storms down there. And I tell you what, Arkansas, Tennessee, Mississippi, and Alabama just got slammed last night with a lot of strong thunderstorms, but we did have a few tornado touchdowns, but thankfully still haven't seen any reports of fatalities or injuries down there, so thank the good Lord that nobody was hurt from the storms last night. So while that storm system continues to move out of here away from the United States, we are focusing our attention on the next round of severe weather that will be coming our way. If we can go to Storm Prediction Center and pull up their Day 3 outlook, which will be for Sunday and into Monday. Computer's just having a little bit of a slow time here. We're trying to multitask here. See, like, we can multitask. There we go. We still have a slight risk of severe weather. Didn't change a whole lot from my post yesterday. We still have an area from St. Louis, Jeff City, Columbia, down to the south, and as far south as maybe Jackson or Tupelo, Mississippi. So we have southeastern Kansas around Pittsburgh, the Yates Center, Neodesha, and moving into east into Missouri and along the Ozarks. So anywhere from Joplin, Springfield, Lebanon, Branson, Lake of the Ozarks, Waynesville, St. Robert, Fort Leonard Wood, over to the east, so just south of St. Louis, around Hillsboro, Arnold, Cape Girardeau, and down into the boot heel. We also have the entire state of Arkansas under this risk for Sunday, eastern Oklahoma, so from about Bartlesville on to the east. We have northern Mississippi, northwestern Alabama. We have it getting close to the Nashville area, but definitely Memphis will be under the gun again for more severe weather by the end of this weekend. Coming into western Kentucky around Bowling Green and Paducah, and just clipping the southwestern corner of Indiana around Evansville. But I would say that Evansville, you still have a good shot of seeing some severe thunderstorms since I just pulled up the probabilities, although the core of what we're focusing on will be southern Missouri in the Ozarks, southeastern Kansas, northeastern Oklahoma, from Little Rock up to the north in Arkansas, and just around the Memphis metro area. So what is the setup? What are we looking at here? Well, let me switch over to Safari and find our surface maps. Here we go. Here is, if we can get this to work, here it is, Saturday 6Z, which will be midnight here, at least central time here in Missouri. It's pretty quiet. We just have a stationary front to the south. We have a dry line help keeping things, well, dry, of course, here in the central part of the U.S. As we go forth in time, definitely folks up to the north will be sacked again by another disturbance that will bring more snow, and those folks don't need any more snow. Pretty quiet for the concerned area until we get into Sunday, or in this case, Saturday, 6 a.m. This system right here is what we'll be focusing on. It'll be this warm front that has just had finished becoming a stationary front, and a dry line coming through Oklahoma and the panhandles, actually the panhandles of both Oklahoma and Texas. Those are going to be just one of the key mechanisms to get the thunderstorms going as we head into Sunday night and into Monday morning. These are like areas that can serve as lift to help lift these parcels of moisture up into the atmosphere to help feed or eventually start the fuel for thunderstorms that will be coming our way. 12Z, 6 a.m., it's an entire cold or warm front now, and already we could see a few areas of showers and thunderstorms from about Dallas onto the north near Denison, Sherman, Ada, and Ardmore, Oklahoma. And here in the south central U.S., Nashville, Memphis, just to the north of Birmingham around Huntsville, and to the northeast of the Jackson or Tupelo metro area, those are the first areas I could see showers and thunderstorms along the warm front and maybe just behind the warm front, and not seeing anything severe with that first round. But as we head into Monday, look at this. The warm front lists far enough to the north where most of Missouri, a good chunk of Illinois, the southern half of Indiana, and the rest of the South will be in the warm sector. So all our eyes will then pay attention to areas along and ahead of this cold front that will be coming into eastern Kansas by about 6 p.m. Sunday night, and along this dry line that could trigger additional thunderstorms for our folks around the Fort Smith area, around Oklahoma City, and off to the east and south of the Missouri-Arkansas border. Now let's see what we can see coming together here. What could trigger all of this? Well, let's go first to the jet stream. This is the 18Z GFS run, and we'll move this to Sunday 0Z, which is 6 p.m. midnight Saturday, or 6 p.m. on Saturday. The low that we'll be keeping an eye on is coming into Southern California around Los Angeles and into Las Vegas. As we move ahead, I'm going to stop it at 18Z, which is noontime. You can see the upper level low kind of weakens a little bit, but we still see quite a dip in the jet stream. And ahead of that, we have a little max here that this is a strong area of winds inside this core, and ahead of that, we see winds screaming out of the southwest. That gives us a good idea of lift trying to get into our overall forecast picture here. And as we move ahead into 0Z Monday, which is 6 p.m. Sunday, and into midnight, we see this little dip in the jet trying to come in. That's a little issuance of colder air. And in order to get severe weather going, you need colder air aloft so that any moisture that lifts from the surface can have no problem getting up into way up in the atmosphere to help structure itself for strong to severe thunderstorms. So we have one mechanism at least in place. On the upper levels, we have winds out of the southwest and eventually some pockets of colder air coming in to erode any capping that could hinder thunderstorm development. Let's take a look at where the surface low wants to go. Let's switch over to precip. Here we go. Make things a little more clearer for you all. We're going to skip ahead to, let's go back a few. Here's 12Z Sunday. We have the low still over in the Rockies, believe it or not, but by the time we head into Sunday night, we'll see this already move into south central Kansas, around Medicine Lodge, Greensburg, around the Garden City, Dodge City, and around the Wichita and Ark City and Salina area in Kansas. You can see the low, it deepens a little bit, so that gives us a little more lift at the surface to help moisture lift up into the atmosphere, which of course, if we can get enough moisture to lift up, we can get quite a bit of thunderstorm development, as evidenced by the precip output right here. And unfortunately for those folks up to the north in Iowa and northern Illinois, closer to Chicago and the Wisconsin-Illinois border, they'll see more snow, which again, those folks have already seen enough snow this winter, and they are just ready for spring to come on in. But come 6 a.m. Monday and into the afternoon, that low just moves on out of here quickly as it came in. So this will not be a 2-day event. It'll come in late or in the late afternoon on Sunday, and it'll be out of here by just around the time that you finish lunch on Monday. So with that said, let's go to Chrome and let's take a look at some output that some of our models want to paint this picture as the storm moves in. Don't mind the clicking. We are moving this model ahead to an appropriate time here. This will be Sunday midnight right here. Again, a lot of snow up to the north, which again, those folks do not need, but for areas from Missouri and Illinois to the south, it's fairly quiet. Keep on going. 6 in the morning, Sunday, still fairly quiet. Maybe a few areas in central Kansas could see a little bit of sleet, but not seeing a whole lot happening there. Maybe not even enough to cause any travel delays if you're going to be on 70 or 35 in Kansas. But look at what happens as we head closer to Sunday evening. This is maybe 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. We already beginning to see showers and a few thunderstorms fire up from about north of Stockton Lake, just to the north of Yates Center and north of Pittsburgh in Kansas. And of course some showers trying to fire up at the southern end of the Ozarks around Fort Smith and maybe just south of Neosho and south of the Joplin area. As we move ahead into, let's say, this will be 9 p.m. We already have some heavy thunderstorms just north of Kirksville and close to Ottumwa, Iowa. And those will be some of the thunderstorms that we'll have to keep an eye on as it moves from the west to the east. But what really has my eye is this line that will form in eastern and southeastern Kansas and come straight across the Missouri-Kansas border. Any storms that we can get forming ahead of this main line will be some storms that we need to keep an eye on, because with the way that the hodographs and the skew T's are setting up, the wind profiles or the shear is good enough where we could see a few isolated tornadoes with any of these storms that form ahead of the main line. If you see one of these storms that form ahead of the main line, you will probably run the risk of maybe seeing an isolated tornado, but overall the threats here look to be wind, strong winds, maybe 60, 70, 80 miles per hour, and definitely some large hail. And we'll get the soundings in a moment just to show you where I think the biggest threats will be. But moving ahead, this will be Monday morning, 6 a.m. We already have still, believe it or not, some strong thunderstorms coming close to the St. Louis area, but as rush hour begins, it scoots off to the north, but we could see stronger thunderstorms still fire up along and ahead of both the dry line and the cold front, as we see this line move into western Kentucky, western Tennessee, as soon as it moves out of Memphis, and even some strong storms around Evansville cannot be ruled out even at this early point in the day, which will be early on Monday before lunch hour. But this will be around 1, 2 o'clock. You'll see the strongest of the storms move on out for you folks in Indiana, Kentucky, and Tennessee, or particularly from Lexington, Fayette, and Nashville off to the west. But for Nashville at this point, you definitely want to keep an eye on Monday, because you'll be going through quite a bit of rough shape with these thunderstorms coming in. So with that said, let's go over and look at some soundings just to show you how I think these threats will come together. This is a good program that I like because I get to look at soundings and get a lot more in-depth with the way the atmosphere could be set up based on the models that we run here on the laptop. Let's open up GFS because I keep doing like model tests and model runs, and GFS seems to be handling this upcoming system fairly well. What we're going to do is go into actually a few areas. Just be sure I click on the zoom button. We'll go in first, click on station. We'll go to SGF or Springfield first. We'll let that run up first, and as you see, as it all loads in, you see a lot of output here. This green line on the left side of the skew T output is the dew point temperature, and the red is the actual air temperature. And on the bottom looks cold, but those are temperatures actually in Celsius, which is different than you're used to seeing temperatures in Fahrenheit. And along the left here, you see the pressure points or the heights in the atmosphere, which is 1,000 millibars for the surface, all the way up to 100 millibars, which is at least a mile, maybe 2 miles up into the atmosphere. So we can take a look and see how the whole atmosphere is shaping up to get a better handle of what's to come in terms of severe weather. So we are going to go ahead here, but the bad thing about this actually is I have to actually keep an eye on when the timestamp is. So this starts off forecasting 0 hours, so right away at 18Z today, so this will be noon. So this would be noon on Saturday and noon on Sunday. And already here we have 558 joules per kilogram of CAPE, which CAPE is potential instability or convective potential instability. That's basically fuel for thunderstorms, or another key component that can cause thunderstorms. Every time you get CAPE at least 500 millibars, that's good enough to fuel some thunderstorms, at least in terms of severity. But take a look at the CIN, or the CINH, which is convective inhibition. It's about 77 joules per kilogram, and the cap is 3. Both of these are essentially saying the same thing, meaning that there will be a little bit of a cap or a pocket of warmer air aloft that could prohibit any parcels from lifting up from the surface and tapping into some of that energy or instability to actually get some strong thunderstorms going. And I've interpreted this time point, and this dashed line that you see running from the surface up over these other two lines, that is the path of the most unstable parcel that the model wants to take that little parcel of moisture. As you can see here, here is that pocket of warmer air, which is the cap, which kind of a good thing, which it kind of inhibits or prohibits any development of thunderstorms. But look what happens as we head into the later evening hours on Sunday, which will be about 6 o'clock at night for Sunday. And again, this is Springfield we're looking at right now. As we get more moisture and more moisture at the surface and colder air coming in thanks to the jet stream way up in the atmosphere, the cap's virtually eroded now. There's very little cap, so with 774 joules of CAPE, we'll see quite a bit of thunderstorms develop, and with the way that the shear is lined up, we definitely will see a strong wind threat, definitely some hail, and maybe, just maybe, an isolated tornado. But at this point in the game, we're not too sure about the tornado threat yet, but Springfield, you will have quite a busy night where you could be sleeping with the weather radio on. Well, look what happens as we head into Monday, though. Take a look. We actually have it drying out completely, which is really good. So we don't have to deal with this all day or all night. And as we head to Monday, we could see some lower level clouds, but we are dry and we are calm, and we have winds out of the northwest, which will show that the front has moved through, and will be calm until our next chance for rain and thunderstorms, which will be later next week. So with that set in mind, let's look at a few more soundings, if you don't mind me doing so. Let's go to Fort Smith. I haven't had a chance to look at that, actually, so you're seeing this for the first time just like I am. We'll see just a quick look at things here. Looks pretty quiet. Heading into noon on Saturday. Pretty calm, pretty calm. Get a little bit of CAPE as we head into Sunday. But look at that, 887 joules of CAPE, but then that's gone. So let's focus in on that time as soon as we get the rest of the data loaded in. Actually, I could try stopping it right now. And let's go back here. This would be noon on Sunday, and already at 6 o'clock. Not the ideal sounding here, but it's as good as any to get thunderstorms going here. 887 joules of CAPE, plenty of instability to get some severe thunderstorms going, and with total totals of 53 and a sweat index of 454, some of these storms that fire up will be severe. And look at the wind profiles along the right. We definitely have a good bit of shear where the winds get stronger in terms of wind speed as you go higher into the atmosphere, and they turn with direction, which is what we want, because we need some rotation to get the thunderstorms a bit more severe. So definitely, again, here for Fort Smith, definitely looking at some severe weather for Sunday afternoon and heading into Sunday night. But that's the only time frame for Fort Smith that you will see showers and thunderstorms. Strong winds, large hail, maybe a few tornadoes, but again, the tornado threat is a bit stressed, but we cannot rule that out by any means. And with little cap, whenever these thunderstorms can tap into the instability, they will grow and they will become quite severe before they form into a line and move off to your east, which is shown here roughly just hours later. You see winds here going off to the west, and this is close to actually Monday morning, 6 a.m. So by the time you head to work or to school, all the severe weather threat will be gone. And you will just see just a quiet day. So not really a bad start to the work week coming up for you guys in Fort Smith and northwestern Arkansas. All right, one more sounding. I want to take a look at Evansville, Indiana. Let's do that for this last bit here. We'll take a look at Evansville. Let that data load in. Now, for you folks watching in Evansville, if there's anybody watching, and I thank you if you are, you will not see a whole lot Sunday afternoon and into Sunday night. You will see these thunderstorms rolling in as you wake up on Monday and eventually head into school or work as Monday rolls on in. And with the way that this sounding is coming up right now, excuse me, at first glance it doesn't look that impressive. So let's reorient ourselves here. This is Saturday at noon again, Sunday at noon. Whoops, a little too fast here. So, okay, Sunday at noon, 6 p.m. Sunday, midnight. This one doesn't look quite as good because we have still quite a bit of moisture up in the middle levels. So at this point, you're probably seeing probably your first round of rain and thunderstorms, or the second line, the main line that will be coming through with that cold front as well. But was certainly Cape around 649, which eventually working down to 615, and with pretty good totals and a sweat index. Don't be surprised if these thunderstorms can be strong, and again, some of them may be severe. But for Evansville, I'm not too convinced that you'll see quite as much severe weather compared to the folks in the Ozarks back in Missouri, all the way down into Arkansas, Oklahoma, and maybe even your neighbors down to the south in Kentucky, Tennessee, and northwestern Mississippi. So that's the way I'm looking at things right now. Definitely see that credible severe weather threat as we head into Sunday afternoon and Sunday evening, definitely for southeastern Kansas and the southern half of Missouri, again from Columbia and St. Louis down to the south. Starts off with rain, but that will not scrub out the atmosphere in any way, because here is that second and main line that will spark some thunderstorms. And as we head into Monday morning and into Monday afternoon, the line only intensifies as it just scoots over Evansville, Indiana, and into around the Louisville area. So Louisville, if anybody's watching from there, you will see quite a bit of thunderstorms as you partake in your lunch on Monday. But as quickly as it comes, quickly it moves on out. We'll just see a few showers behind that. So hopefully we will get through this next severe weather turn with not a whole lot of damage, very few reports of fatalities or injuries. But for me, this is kind of exciting for me because I love winter, but I am ready for winter to be over and bring on the severe weather season. That's it for now. If anything changes, I'll post updates on my blog. Have a good night, folks.